Today we're going to be talking about the Netflix film Don't Kill Me, which is an Italian horror film that weirdly enough looks a lot like Twilight.
Uh-oh. Stinky.
No! God, please, no!
I was looking for something new to talk about today, and at the beginning I wanted to talk about Euphoria, or I wanted to talk about The Batman, which is literally coming out tonight, but I thought that a lot of different YouTubers were gonna comment on that kind of content, and at the end of the day, Euphoria is just incredibly good and I had nothing interesting to add. But anyways, that's why I went back to Netflix, of course, to find something cringy and fun to look at. And this week is gonna be the horror zombie slash vampire film called Don't Kill Me, or in Italian Non mi uccidere.
Tu mi hai ucciso. Adesso I cattivi siamo noi.
Was it fun? Yes, it was really fun, but mostly because I really handled my expectations. I was not expecting something great, especially because the state of the contemporary horror genre in Italy is almost non-existent. But I'm still quite glad that Netflix is investing in these kind of things so that people can experience the horror genre through different perspectives. And I thought we'd do something different today. I didn't want to just do a straight on review of the film because I feel like it's not a very dense film. It doesn't really require some kind of weird, to the point scrutiny. But I still wanted to look at some Letterboxd reviews and see why people, and mostly Italian people, hated this so much. And comment on them a little bit, giving you my own perspective and review of the film itself. Because I think it's much more fun that way, okay?
Tu aimes bien le jambon? Tu n'aimes pas cette grosse connasse de Peppa Pig? Viens goûte le jambon Peppa Pig! Fais-toi plaisir en mangeant toute la famille de Peppa Pig en famille! Le jambon Peppa Pig, c'est pas pour les Peppa putes!
Of course, the Letterboxd reviews that I'm gonna be looking at today are a mix of English and Italian, and I will be translating the Italian part on the go, right as you are. So stay tuned for Italian 101. Are you ready to learn some Italian today? Yay!
It's an old Italian lady how to use an iPad.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I'll give it a try. Hey, how are you? Look what I got for you.
What is it?
It's a tablet computer.
I don't want it.
But you don't even know what it is.
I don't want it.
But you can watch movies on it.
My eyes hurt.
I'm trying to do something nice here.
For the last time, I don't want it.
I bet you if Joey was giving it to you, you'd take it.
Don't you bring him into...
But first of all, most of the reviews gave the film 1 star or even half a star over 5, while I gave it 4 stars. Mostly because I handled my expectations. I knew this was not gonna be that good because it is a weird teenage horror story about 2 young people falling in love and almost like doing a Romeo and Juliet where they killed themselves to be reborn as weird zombies. If you hear that premise, I'm pretty sure that you are gonna be expecting a cringy looking film.
Chi è quello dietro? Robin. Piace a tutte, ma non a noi.
I don't really like the rain. Any cold, wet thing, I don't really...
Why Netflix foreign horror films are mostly garbage. This is an insufferably dull film that just meanders along with no real sense of direction. I honestly can't think of any redeeming qualities of this. I don't like the uneven tone, the meandering plot, or the failed attempts to tie up the handful of desperate plots the film has. Lots of unnecessary nudity and sex scenes, probably to appeal to young Netflix users. Don't waste your time.
So don't forget it. It's just to see your face I'm going through.
A lot of things to unpack when it comes to this review. The first thing would probably be the uneven tone, because I do agree that the pacing of the film is kind of weird. It stops and goes. It kind of reminds me of a lot of indie horror films where you're not really there to just be scared. It's not like a slasher movie. It is trying to do different things at the same time. And to be honest, like, I actually enjoyed the fact that the director here, it feels like he was trying to throw at the screen as many weird things as possible, hoping that any would stick with the audiences. And of course, it does feel a little jumbled and a little weird at times. I mean, this film kind of reminded me of Underworld, for example, that whole idea of these undead people being tracked by a secret society that is trying to dispose of them just to create some kind of balance in between life and death. It does look a lot like Twilight. It is kind of impressive how much this film is literally like a sexy, gory version of Twilight, seen through like an Italian perspective. Even though this doesn't look like Italian filmmaking at all. But that was refreshing in my opinion. As like an Italian person myself, Italian movies tend to look all the same, a lot like the popular movies here in France. And I was actually kind of surprised that the cinematography, but also the soundtrack were so good. So I think there are definitely some redeeming qualities when it comes to this film. It doesn't deserve the 1 star, unless you had like American standards when it comes to this film here, which you should never have when you're looking at foreign horror films. You should judge them as they are and not in comparison to $1 million budget of shit and stuff like that. Another reviewer says, for me it was not really scary. I've seen a few zombie movies and this was the only one that's not horror for me. We could argue like for days honestly whether the purpose of horror films is to scare you. I do agree that this film is not scary at all, even though I do like the fact that it's quite gory. And it doesn't really play on that kind of tension that you don't know what's going to happen to the main characters or to side characters. It doesn't really play on that kind of stuff. It just moves from one scene to the next in a very smooth way, in my opinion. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad horror film, you know, because I don't think you need to be scared constantly, or there need to be jump scares, for example, for a horror film to be deserving of acclaim by audiences or critics. Sei tipo una zombie? Sì, ma meno rincoglionita. If you want to translate that, it's like two people discussing the film and one being like, so are you some kind of zombie? And the other person answers, yes, but a very stupid zombie. I like those kind of letterbox reviews, mostly because with just a couple of sentences they can sum up the mood of the film so well without actually sounding too pretentious or without using the cinephile words that we are accustomed to. Ragazzi, non drogatevi, poi si muore, si diventa vampiri in un brutto film di vampiri. So the translation would be, hey guys, don't do drugs, otherwise you will die and be resurrected as a vampire in a really bad vampire movie. I feel like this review really touches on the fact that the theme / the message of the film was really muddled and you really didn't know what you were supposed to learn from all of this.
Io sono solo. Ho imparato a difendermi presto. Perché ti portano via tutto, Mirta. Anche gli amici. Quelli veri.
Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
But at the end of the day, like when it comes to horror films, very often there is no message, there is no theme. If we go back, for example, to the very recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I feel like that movie, the end of the day, didn't really have a message. It was trying to give us one, like Halloween Kills did as well. But at the end of the day, we were there just for the kills, we were there for the gore, we were there for the fun horror slasher stuff. And this is the same thing when it comes to this film. So don't expect horror films to come always with a message, especially the ones that look incredible incredibly cringy. Absolutely pointless movie like Twilight, but with zombies and surprisingly worse. I didn't think that was possible.
Una figa come te non si scorda. Scommetto che sei una studentessa, una di quelle che stanno a lettere. Io sono un ingegnere, ristrutturo ville importanti, casali. È figo, no?
Oh, I really don't agree. This person really underestimates the power of Twilight, because Twilight, when you look at it from a very different perspective, is actually a really good film, distorting the kind of Romeo and Juliet trope of people being doomed and destined to each other at the same time.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
But this film kind of really looks like Twilight. That's also why I put Twilight behind me. And being in love with someone who looks very dark and mysterious, who brings you to weird parties and shit like that. At the end of the day, actually, if you enjoy Twilight but thought that it deserved more gore, then you can watch Don't Kill Me. You'll actually get that. You'll 100% get that.
Did you just come inside me?
I just love to create. I love to inspire and show unedited photos of myself. And if I can just inspire one person, then I'll have done what I set out on this earth to do.
Sicuramente un horror riuscito dal punto di vista del montaggio e della colonna sonora, soprattutto per essere italiano. Bravissima Alice Pagani che si cala intensamente nella parte e regge in piedi da solo un film che, boh, non l'ho mica capito. Già l'idea di partenza mi ha fatto un po' storcere il naso, ma poi non ho capito esattamente cosa voleva mostrarci il film, che alla fine mi è sembrato solo un Twilight all'italiana, a tratti lento, in altri quasi imbarazzante e stupido. This review gave it like 1.5 stars, and I'm really glad though that they still managed to find some interesting things about it. They especially claim that the soundtrack was really good, and they talk about the performance of the main actress Alice Pagani, and that's actually the main thing that I really enjoyed when it comes to this film here. I really like when really beautiful looking actresses go completely insane and get really sucked in by a role, and they dare to look disgusting, they dare to look really like monster-like. And it kind of belongs to the slasher franchise a little bit more, where you've got the final girl, which is completely covered in blood and is going insane just because she's being psychologically tortured by the main villain for the entire film. So at the end of the day, she just becomes like a monster to survive. And this is exactly the thing that I liked about Alice Pagani's performance. And it's probably the only thing that saves the movie, just because she was really committed to the performance itself in this film here. She was really scary, to be honest. And it kind of reminded me of the Swedish great vampire movie Let the Right One In, where you've got this kind of innocent character desperately trying to survive, who has nothing else to lose.
Ed è per questo che ora libero l'umanità da questi insetti di merda. È importante imparare a non ucciderli subito.
Hey, this is Patrick from the editing room, and I was thinking while I was editing this video about Jennifer's Body and how back then when it came out people really hated on it, and I'm actually kind of wondering whether it is the fact that in this film here they are transforming a very stereotypically attractive young woman into like a predator, into a monster, and she's finally channeling her power to actually get back at bad people who tend to be guys most of the times in this film, actually, because I think that I'm pretty sure that's the only people that she ends up killing. I wonder whether in a couple of years this film will be more appreciated, just because it might be just a bit of a sexist thing where people just don't enjoy seeing women characters becoming like these like weird badass monsters. I mean, that's what happened with Jennifer's Body, so why not? This could be like an interesting theory of why this film was actually so badly received. Let's go back to Patrick in the past, because I think he has a lot of cool things to say. There are a lot of things that I actually like when it comes to this film. For example, like the main character, she gets shot at so many different times, one after the other, and she just keeps going and going. She keeps running away, she keeps crawling away, while it is clearly hurting her, it's just not killing her. And this is kind of goes in the way of those kind of zombie films when you think about warm bodies, where they try to make you understand what it is like to be in someone else's mind, a zombie. It actually reminded me of the really good All of Us Are Dead, where we got these weird hybrid human/zombies who have the same powers of zombies, but at the same time they almost can never die, but they are still humans. They still have the emotional strength of humans and they act like humans. So I do really like this kind of tragic characters where we don't really know what kind of life is awaiting for them after what happens within this film here. Of course, I 100% agree with what the reviewer is saying here. For example, when it comes to the sex scenes are incredibly weird. Some of them are well shot, to be honest, and some of them really look like soft porn. It kind of reminds me of 50 Shades of Grey. If you try to deconstruct this, teenagers or young adults, if you wanna upgrade them, very often when they fall in love for the first time or when they don't really know a person that well, the only thing that they actually share is this kind of physicality. It is the sex part, it is the flirtation. There is not really a lot of depth when it comes to the love that these two people share in the film itself.
Doesn't he own a shirt?
Dialogues are bland and it looks like the direction choices were based on whether or not the shots were Pinterestable. I mean, to be honest, something looking very Pinterest-like, especially when it comes to a movie, I'd rather get that than get a movie that looks completely bland. At least this movie was trying to do something weird when it comes to the whole neon look. It also tried to look very American. It tried to be very Hollywood-like. But to be honest, in our day and age, everything is American. Everyone is consuming American pop culture. And for me, it is actually kind of weird that we keep actually making these indie films where there is no American music and we pretend that the main characters are these incredibly special people who only consume music and films from their specific country. I like when they try to make these kind of hybrid films. I feel like these are the kind of best films that come out of specific countries. If you think about Luc Besson, that's exactly why his career has been so incredibly successful. And it's because he dared to mix successful things from American cinema and put them in the French cinema itself. Of course, I'm not saying that this film here is the same level as things like The Fifth Element. Of course, I'm not saying that. But I do appreciate the effort of trying to look like something different and not trying to stick to looking like any other Italian film out there. And at the end of the day, that's exactly why I decided to shoot this video here, because I thought there was something interesting when it comes to hating on horror films, whether they try to normalize traditional tropes or whether they try to do something original. No one is ever pleased. I feel like there was almost no one who was having like a different perspective on the film itself, trying to look at the positive things instead of just looking at the bad and negative things. And that's the kind of thing you do when you're a horror fan. You watch so many horror films on a yearly basis and you're so desperately trying to grasp at anything that you like, just to be like, oh, okay, at least we've got that, we've got that, we've got that, I've had a good time, right? Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the film Don't Kill Me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every single like that you drop down here will be in appreciation of Alicia Pagani's performance in the film itself and of her as a beautiful human being, of course. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
I became a vampire to suck blood and to fuck forever.
You better hold on tight, spider monkey.
What did he say?